Good morning, Stampers. Well, here it is, July 5th. I hope everybody had a great 4th of July. All your family members have their fingers and toes left. Was a little bit uneventful here, but where our house is situated, we're able to see all the fireworks in the valley. So it was nice. I enjoyed it. Nice and quiet. So today's card is featuring a stamp set I absolutely adore. Capture the Good. This is a stamp set that Tammy White designed as a $1 million achiever. Absolutely adore her. And she's my mentor and friend. I really appreciate her. So, of course, I had her sign mine. But we've got Capture the Good and On to Adventure. And when I saw this camera and this little guy with the camera, uh, I was just in love. I knew these two sets had to go together. So what we're going to create today is this fun little card. Now, what I want to teach today, besides masking and stamping over, is how to make this little film strip. Now, this particular one, I do have a film strip punch. And I thought, well, Stampin' Up! Doesn't have one of those. So I'm going to show you, if you don't have a film strip punch, how you can create this. It's not as hard as it looks. And we're just going to jump right in and make this fun little card. So on the post, I will have all the measurements for everything we do and supplies used. So I have my card base, my mat, because I want a black mat, and our workpiece. So like I said, I will have all the measurements for all these pieces below this post. So let's start with our image first. So of course I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus because I can't live without it. And we're going to take our little guy with the camera. Isn't this set adorable? Look at her. Their little suitcase traveling. Oh, and if you've got a golfer in your family, of course, that's just adorable. So we're gonna take our little guy with the camera here and line this up. And I'm gonna put him off to the bottom left side because we want our greeting to fit here, and we're gonna have our film strip go at an angle here. So let's move him about. Let's put him about right there. So we're going to stamp him. And I'm just going to use Memento Black ink because I am going to be using the Stampin' Blends. And when you use Memento ink, it doesn't bleed. So let's ink him up really good. Okay, you know me, I'm going to stamp him twice because I want him nice and dark. And while we have this stamp on, take a Post-it note. So we're going to take a Post-it note. Make sure that's dry so we don't smear it. And I'm going to stamp him once on this Post-it note to create a mask. So it doesn't have to be perfect, you just need to be able to cut it out. Grab our snips, and he's really easy to cut out. It's, pretty much straight lines. So remember, when you're cutting a mask, you want to cut kind of right on the line, because when it's laid down that way, the image that you're stamping over it goes all the way to the line. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm kind of cutting right on the line. And since our image is basically just over the top part of him, we're going to lay him down right over the image. See how you can see the black lines of the image? That way when you stamp your next image, it's going to go right up against those lines. So let me grab a wipe and wipe this off real quick. Now we're going to take our camera from the Capture the Good. It's the big camera image. We're going to need the smile. Pull that out. So now we're just going to take our camera and overlap your little guy. And it's just going to fill in the piece here, and we still have room for our greeting there. So we'll just line up our camera so it's on the full sheet. I'm going to stamp this in Memento also. Ink it up really well. And stamp right over our little guy. What's nice about this camera is the way they've designed it. It's already got all the shading in it for you. You really don't have to do anything to it unless you want to. You can color it or, add some extra shading if you'd like. I'm just going to leave it as it is because I like it just the way it is. So I'm going to take that off. And see, when you remove your mask, there you go, he's perfectly on there. So now I'm going to move my magnet here and add my greeting right here in the top left corner. Again, I'm just doing it in black. You can do whatever colors you would like. Okay, I want that a little bit darker, so I'm just going to stamp it again. There we go. So we got the basic part of the card done. I'm going to move it off my Stamparatus here. Let it dry. Now we're going to work on the film strip. Now, if you have a punch, if you happen to have this film strip punch, I've had this, oh my gosh, years. I probably picked it up on sale at a craft store. I'm sure you can find them. It's just a film strip border punch. But if you don't have that, I wanted to show you you can create your own film strip. So what I did is I took a piece of basic black, and this basic black strip is 1 1/4, and then I did 7 inches because the only reason I did 7 is I want it to go over the top of my greeting, and then we'll trim it off. So I wanted to give myself plenty of room there. So that's why it's 7 inches. So you're going to take this black strip, which is 1 1/4 by 7, and then just take your ruler, and I'll put the measurements on it. Now when you use a pencil on black, you'll be able to see it. It just leaves a little silver mark. So what I want to do is I'm going to line this up on my ruler. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit for you. So I'm going to line it up, and I'm going to mark 1/8 inch on each edge. So let's go in just 1/8 of an inch here. I'm going to mark that on both sides. So 1/8, and then let's do 1/8 on this one. And then just take your ruler and mark your lines. This is going to give you the straight line that you need for your holes that you're going to punch. So we're just going to lay that on there from mark to mark. Mark our line. And since it's pencil, it'll erase if any of it's showing. So see, now we have our 1/8 inch line, which is where we're going to punch our holes. Now for the holes, what I did is I laid my ruler onto my line. So I line that up right on my line. And I'm going to mark a hole every 1/4 inch right on top of that line. Sorry, I moved my ruler. So we're going to line that up. And then 1/4 inch, put a little dot right on top of the line. And do that all the way down. Okay, so now we've got our marks. You're going to bring in your hole punch. I can't find my small handheld, so I'm just going to use my little crocodile and the small hole. And since you've marked all your marks, just line it up right on your hole and punch it. Okay, well that was a little tedious, but you get the gist. So once your holes are marked, if you have a better hole punch than what I have, that's one of the smaller ones, it's a little easier to see. I couldn't find my small one, so I just used my crocodile. So basically you come up with your film strip. Now, for the film strip images, I cut a piece of designer series paper, and this is from the Bird Ballad set. I wanted it because it had the small little flowers that would work, so I could have a couple flowers. So this is cut at 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch strip, and then we're going to cut 1 inch pieces. So let me bring in my cutter. So I've got my 3/4, and I'm just going to cut some 1 inch pieces here. And then we can pick which ones we want to use in our strip, because the back side is what we're going to stamp on. So I'm just going to cut some of these 1 inch strips. Okay, I know I want that one flower right here. This one came out almost a full flower, so I know I want to use that one. And I'm going to trim this a little and get get this other flower. So I'm going to cut that at 1 inch. There we go. So now we have our 2 flower images that are going to go on the edge. Set that aside. And then I'm going to flip these over for the back side for my It's Your Day. So you're going to take your It's Your Day, and it is right here in the stamp set. And I'm going to put it on a block, and I'm going to use the marker to stamp method for this. So I'm going to bring in my marker, my black marker, and all I'm going to do is color the It's. And then you'll huff on it and stamp it right on your little piece. So there's our It's. I'll clean this off. Now I'm going to do the Your. I'm just using the brush tip of my marker, my black marker. Huff on it. Line it up. And the last one is Day. You can do this with any color marker. It's marker to stamping. If you don't have a certain color ink pad, but you've got the marker, you can stamp with the marker. There we go. There we go. We've got our It's Your Day. Set that aside. So now I'm going to take my film strip, and just so I get it where I want it, I'm going to temporarily lay my strip about where it's going to be on here, and line up my greeting part first. So let's put It's Your. You want to leave a little gap in between. It's Your Day there. And then your 2 little flowers that we pulled aside. So I know I want 1 flower here. And I want my other flower here. So normally what I do is I'll take my middle one first and then line up from there. So we're just going to take a little bit of our multi-purpose glue. A little bit goes a long way. We're going to line that up first. And with the glue, the good thing about the glue is you have a little bit of lead time to be able to shift it around to make sure it's straight. So now I'll take the one above it, leave a little bit of gap, and line it up. My flower. You could do this with any images. Stamp images on there if you want. You could actually use images printed from your computer if you wanted. I made a card for Tammy that's got her image in a film strip. Okay, so we've got our film strip done, and I'm going to set that aside until we color our image. And all I'm using on this is some stamping blends. So I want to start with, let's start with this little hat. So I'm going to be using the soft suede, light and dark. So I'm going to take my dark first, and I'm going to use my small tip because it's a small little hat. And I'm going to do my dark edges right here. Now when you're coloring, you want to remember that your light's coming from the front. So that'll be the lightest spots. We're going to add a little bit of dark accent on here. Take our light and blend it in. Go right over the top of where you do your dark, and it'll blend. It's not going to lift it, it's going to blend it for you. Let's go ahead and do his shorts in brown too. And what's really nice about the way Stampin' Up's been doing some of these stamps is they've kind of showed you where your dark highlights are going to be already. So that really takes a lot of the guesswork out of knowing how to do your light and darks with your different colors. So even like this one. So even the camera, they've already done some of the shading for you. So just use your light and dark markers in the same concept there. So we're going to put a little bit of dark right here on the dark shade of his shorts. And then blend it in. And I wanted to pull colors out of my DSP. So let's do his shirt. Of course, you're on vacation, so it's got to be like a Hawaiian shirt. So we're going to do a yellow shirt. And I'm going it with the dark. This is Dark Daffodil Delight. And I'm going over those shaded spots that are already on the stamp. Maybe a little bit under his chin here where the shade's hitting. Maybe a little bit under the camera. A little on the edge. Now we'll take our light Daffodil Delight and just blend those in. Go right over, go right into where you put that dark. Just go right into it and it's going to blend it out for you. We're going to give him a little green to pull in some of the green from our card base and from our DSP. I'm going to bring in the Granny Apple Green. And I'm going to take the dark first, and I'm going to do these little tiny, he has little tiny flowers or palm leaves like a Hawaiian shirt on. So I'm just going to do a couple little dark dots in those flowers. And then bring in your Granny Apple Green and finish coloring them in. Now for his skin tone, I'm going to go ahead and move in so you can see how we're coloring this. For his skin tone, all I used was the petal pink, the light and dark petal pink. So I'm going to take my dark first. You can do your light or your darks opposite. I've always done my darks first and blended out with my lights. There is no right or wrong. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Or you could do your light, then your dark, and then your light again if you wanted to blend it out. But the way these work when you're blending is when they're wet is when they blend. So if you're coloring a large image, try to do the same color, do it in small sections so that your blender inks stay wet. So I'm going to take my dark and I'm going to add a little bit of dark here under his hat, because it is shaded. And then right under his eyes, see where the stamp has already told you where the shading is? So So let's put a little there, maybe a little on his ears. A couple little highlights there. Now we're going to bring in the light petal pink and just fill in the rest. Go into it, blend it out. Okay, we'll do the same on his little arms. You can see where the shading is. So I'm just going to add a little bit of dark where the shading is. And then take my light, blend it, and finish it. I'm going to leave his hair white gray. So let's take a little bit of light gray here. Just your light, this is your light smoky slate. And I'm just going to go a little bit where the shading of the stamp already is. And there you go. Let's do his, I'm going to keep this light smoky slate. And I'm just going to color in his camera. The shading of the stamp itself already does the dark shading for you. You just fill it in and it's already shaded. I think I'm going to use a little bit of the soft suede, light soft suede, to do the strap to the camera. And that just kind of ties it to his hat. For his sunglasses or his glasses, I'm just going to use the dark Seaside spray. And I'm just going to color the lenses of his glasses. And since the stamp has already got some shading in there, it shades it for you. Now when I do my images, I often do shadows because it kind of makes it more 3D. But I'm going to go ahead, let's color the grass. The grass I'm using the Granny Apple Green. We'll do a little bit of dark right on the dark shade. And then take the light and just blend it a little bit. Go a little bit outside of it and blend it. There you go. Now my shading, I like to use Light Pool Party. And you take your feather edge and just go around your image a little. Just go around the edges. See how that kind of makes him 3D? Just a little bit of shading does it. I do it on most of my images. So we've got that done. Now we're going to take our film strip, figure out where we want it on here. And we're just going to glue it down. Again, I use glue because it gives you a chance to move it a little if you need to. So we're just going to add some glue on there. Try not to go into the holes where it's going to smear onto your card. And I'm just going to lay that probably about right there. And then just take your snips and snip off the excess. There you go. We have our project is basically done. So I did do it onto a small black mat because I like the way it kind of pulls in the film strip there. Come out for you. Isn't he adorable? He's so cute. So I did a granny apple green base, which will go with the little granny apple flowers on his shirt. I'm just going to glue this one directly down to the card base. And I'm going to add these fun little embellishments that I can't remember the name of, but I'll list them in the. They're little metal embellishments. They're so cute, but to me they look like a little camera lens. So I'm going to put a little silver, pick one up, and I'm going to put one right here on this lens. I should have brought my take your pick tool over and pick these up. I'm going to put one on his camera, and I'm going to do a gold one. If you have your take your pick tool, use it. It's easier. And I'm going to put it on the button of this camera. Oops, didn't have that one straight. And there you go. Isn't that fun? I hope you enjoyed it today. Easy way to make a film strip. It's a little tedious at times, but it works and it's cute. I hope you enjoyed today's card. Happy stamping!